To follow in father's footsteps is a motto for each boy, and following in father's footsteps is a thing I much enjoy. My mother caught me out one evening up the West End on the spree. She said, "Where are you going?" And I answered, "Don't ask me."
When I had the heart attack, it was like a Carol's flower glade, wasn't it, round my bed? I mean, you couldn't move for flowers down there. And letters galore. And what was marvellous was when I came out, I had two lots of people come to see me who I didn't know. They were only from the audience. And I found that quite, touching, really. And they said, because it was in the paper about me having it, and said, but you've given us so much pleasure, over the years. We can't bear to think we're not going to see you on the stage again, they said.
I'm following your father's footsteps. I'm following my dear old dad. He's just in front with a nice big gal, so I thought I'd like one as well. I don't know where he's going, but when he gets there I'll be glad. I'm following in father's footsteps, yes. I'm following the dear old dad.
Bedworth is a Midlands town near Coventry, and its citizens were happy to pay this floral tribute to one of its favourite sons. Ted Whitehead is a member of a well-known local family, and for 62 years he has lived at Bradgate, a house on the Newtown Road, where his father Jack and his mother Florence came in 1933. And there, a fortnight after they arrived, so did Ted, at the height of a storm. Bradgate looks a bit austere, grey, the sashes in black and white trim, but it's solidly built and surprisingly spacious inside, and at the back there are a patio and a large garden. And here, in those less turbulent pre-war times, Jack would come home across the fields from Newdigate Pit, and Ted would toddle out to greet him and his workmates.
They were always smiling, they were always coming along, joking together, inevitably smoking, and you'd run up here and you had to sort of clutch, but not too much because of the dirt getting on you, that sort of thing, you cling around the legs and things. You'd be saying, guess what I've done today, Dad? I've been playing hopscotch and I've beat Ronnie G at marbles and this, that and the other thing.
Does this not make you feel sad looking at it now?
It's just nice to know it's here. It's nostalgia, it's not sadness. Because life has to go on, doesn't it, You can't sort of live in the past all the time. And you certainly wouldn't want miners coming home black anymore, would you? Or anything like that. I mean, it sounds lovely, as you said, a D.H. Lawrence novel, but in real life, think how hard it is, do a shift on your back, for 8 hours, and I'm to walk all this way and all to where my house is. And a lot of times, even further, it's not, no sadness for that going, really, if one is honest. My father would have fought tooth and nail to stop us going down the pit, because he wanted us to be better, you say, than that.
Ted was the third of 6 brothers. There's a photograph on his bedroom wall. Clive, Ian, Keith, Roy, John, and in the centre, bespectacled and smiling, the plump one, Ted. And when he was little, Ted remembers, the household would include Grandad in his armchair, a garland of kids festooning the floor, the lodger in his bedroom, and in the kitchen, Florence busy baking, though never putting quite enough mincemeat into the pies. But, says Ted, Bradgate was never overcrowded, and there was a lot of love in the house. A lack of money brings love out.
I never knew my parents have an argument. When I say a really rip-roaring argument, their nearest disagreement used to come on a Monday night. And it was all over people who died. The local paper carrying the death column used to arrive every night, you see. But on Monday nights, my Uncle Billy used to come, my mother's brother, to collect the money for the Spastics Club. Well, from the time Uncle Billy came in at about 6 o'clock on a Monday till well after 7, there was a long discussion about everybody they knew who died, whose name was in the column. And that's the nearest my parents ever came to falling out, because the conversation used to go, I see Elsie Jones has gone then, she was 71. I never thought she was 71. She said, surely she's never 71, she's not that much older than I am. She said, yes, you're thinking of a sister. Her sister was, Ethel. No, Ethel was the youngest. She married Bill Smith from round the Woodlands. And then they used to go on and on about this poor woman's life history. She had no, she didn't. She had a boy and a girl. Then she had the twins what died. No, that wasn't her, the twins what died. That was the next door neighbour. She said, I remember. She used to walk by here with them. And this used to go on about this poor woman who died. They would sort her out, then go on to the next one. By about half an hour of this, I am beside myself listening to this. I can't control myself. To say, well, does it really matter? The poor woman's gone now. But no, you always know you're right, our chap. You always, and you don't remember half the things. I tell you now, let's know what's happened years ago.
Newtown Road harboured characters galore. There was Mrs. Dewis, who resurrected you if you were a baby and turned blue, like Ted's brother Clive, or laid you out when you died and turned white. There was Ted's Auntie Lil, who ran the Queen's Head pub, where he drank pop in the parlour and collected invalids sick and dippy. There was Mr. Jackson's ebullient daughter Doreen, who hid scrumped apples in her knickers and got stung by a wasp in a dangerous place. There was Mrs. Moore, who kept a sweet shop and had an aversion to children. And there was Mrs. Richards.
Mabel. If anybody dies in the street, we have a collection to pay for a wreath. And Mrs. Richards was one of the chief collectors. It used to take her about a week to do it. In fact, I wonder sometimes the wreath got to the funeral, because every house she'd be at for at least 2 or 3 hours. And she used to come here and collect. I'm collecting for Mrs. Elsie Jones, or something, who's gone. Then we had a discussion about why she'd gone and what she went for, and what took her off in the end, and that sort of thing. When the lady at the end, again, her husband was the man who died, we started the collection, you see. Then she decided she didn't want flowers. Well, of course, we never heard of this round here. So we didn't know what to do with the money. But the lady next door was 92 and had a heart attack. So they said, well, I got the money because it may well have come in.
Did she oblige you?
No, she didn't. She got better. But it was, I remember that being an absolute embarrassment, to the whole street. Oh, she doesn't want flowers. Anyway, that was Mrs. Richards' eternal gossip.
The raid began at 7:30 and lasted till 6 o'clock the following morning. Raiding planes came not singly, but in scores. Hardly had the sound of one squadron died away than we heard the engines of another. The noise of bombs and guns was incessant. The raiders dive-bombed and dived again.
Bedworth is only 7 miles from Coventry, and on that terrible night of November the 14th, 1940, the folk at Bradgate had a grandstand view of the Coventry Blitz.
When the big blitzes were on, the whole of the horizon was aglow in deep red, and you could see the searchlights and the barrage balloons and the aeroplanes flying over and the bomb bursts and all that sort of thing. It really was very dramatic. Of course, you could hear the aircraft going over. They had a very special sound, the German aircraft. It was a very interrupted sound, and there was the big phrase, oh, it's one of theirs, or it's one of ours, we could tell. And you used to see all the dark shapes of the aircraft going over and hear this sound. Of course, we were kept in the shelter, so we couldn't see, but of course, father being a part-time, not ARP1, but they used to sort of watch out for incendiaries and things dropping, because at one stage incendiaries dropped all along the gardens. But of course, when your father went out, you used to sort of, controlling 4 of us wasn't too easy, so occasionally you came out or you wanted to go to the toilet, so you sort of came out and you were able to peep and see it. But then, of course, when it got big, like the 2 big raids, we did actually just stand and watch it. I vividly remember it. I can see it now as if it happened last night. I can still see, as I say, all the red glow and the smoke going up and the barrage balloons and the searchlights, and you used to have to come down when the air raid siren went. You used to be brought down from bed, and the 4 of us led into the air raid shelter with my mother with her, I can remember her, the thing to hold her stockings up, suspenders used to shake. We used to tell my mother's frightened now because the suspenders were shaking.
On its own, number 9. On its own, number 3. 3 and 1, 31. 6 and 7, 67.
Ted's Palace Cinema is no longer a temple of the film. Bingo has banished the celluloid epics of its heyday. Still, Ted remembers with affection going to the pictures.
We used to come here and meet our girlfriends here, and we used to queue down the side of the cinema, and you knew, because the queue used to start about 5 o'clock, so you have to get here about 5:10, 5:15 to get in the queue and wait till they let you in at about 5:45, because you used to scramble then up the stairs with the back seats in the circles where you did your courting. And they've also got, actually, a thing that used to be called the horse box, which is 2 rows of 4 seats at the side of the projection box where you could almost do what you liked, but of course it was a favourite spot for the usherettes to shine the torches on. I used to go to the cinema 4 times a week, and I can remember, to this day, I remember Shirley Temple's first kiss when she grew up, when she was about 16. I can't remember what the film was called. I remember it was always, the publicity was always Shirley Temple's first kiss.
Oh, the days are gone when beauty bright my heart chain wore, when my dream of life from morn till night was love, still love.
But Ted's leisure time wasn't all sixpenneth of dark and torchlit encounters in the Osbox. He was always a bit soulful, a goody-goody, he says, and Sunday school actually appealed to him, especially when he was small and cherubic and was picked for Jesus in the annual play, an auspicious introduction to the life of the church. In surplice and song, Ted became a chorister at All Saints Bedworth, rebuilt in 1890 at a cost of £8,729 in the decorative style of Runcorn stone.
Kathleen Ferrier came to sing in this church once, I remember. Oh, I thought she was wonderful. She was like a sort of voice of an angel almost, wasn't she? What is life to me without thee? What is life if thou art dead? What is life?
Life without thee. What is life without my love? What is life if thou art dead?
The hymn that was our favourite, the choir boy's favourite, was God Be With You Till We Meet Again, because at the back of the church used to sit my Auntie Grace and another gentleman who used to compete to sing the loudest. But it's the chorus, you see, where you can out-sing, till we meet, till we meet. We used to have all that. It was wonderful. And the organist used to have to wait. And the congregation, while these two sorted out who was hanging on to this note the longest.
The Whiteheads were an intimate and affectionate family. Always Ted remembers happy times. Off to Skegness with Florence in a non-corridor puffer, with sepia pictures, window straps, and shrieks of delight when you saw the sea. Whitsun treats when you jolted along in a lorry amid carnival balloons and streamers, your parents carrying the Sunday school banner. And Florence at Bradgate, over the kitchen sink in a flurry of feathers, cheerfully plucking chickens. A gamekeeper's daughter, if she'd had as many pounds as she plucked chickens, she'd be a millionaire, she used to say. Then all at once, for Ted, these domestic stars paled in the brilliance of a positive sunburst.
Who are we? The Ugly Sisters? Oh, no, we're not. Oh, no, we're not.
I love pantomime. We used to go to the Coventry Theatre in the gallery where it cost about threepence, I think. I can seem to remember queuing that for a good hour in the snow and cold at Christmas and clambering up all these stone steps. And of course, you were in the gallery and they looked like ants on the stage. But, oh, I loved it. I mean, I was just enamoured of all the colour and the excitement and things like that. Never dreamed that one day I'd actually get on that stage myself.
He was smitten, hooked, stage-struck. And growing up, he learned to balance life's practicalities with his passion for the stage. Ted's long amateur acting career centres on the Talisman Theatre, Kenilworth, home of a gifted local company. He first appeared on stage in the 50s in Red Riding Hood, has been involved as both actor and producer in almost 100 productions since. In retirement, he also acts as a model for fledgling doctors to practice their skills, imitating all manner of ailments from manic depression to a bothersome prostate. Recently, he has channeled his performing skills into hospital radio, and atop all this bustle, Ted still finds time to produce every year at Coventry the Gang Show.
I'm known as the makeup supervisor. I just have to order all the makeup because they all have to be made up, all 150 of them each night. And then I've got a team of ladies, they're allocated a dressing room each by me, and they make the lads up before they go. Now, if there's anything the very special one's doing, I do it, or I give them instructions on how to do it. The special ones I do is if they want a 57-year-old scoutmaster to look like Marilyn Monroe, so I go in hard with the blue eyes shadow and the lipstick and the rouge, and together with a blonde wig, and we do our best. But it's great fun, you know, I enjoy doing that. I've been doing it 27 years. I got my thanks badge from the Chief Scout.
We're riding along on the crest of a wave, and the sun is in the sky. All our eyes on the distant horizon, look out for passers-by.
I actually directed the cub scene one year with 98 cubs. It was called Snow White and the 70 Dwarfs. Took 14 choruses of Hey Ho, Hey Ho to get them on the stage. I remember that. I thought I'd never start coming down this mountainside with the lanterns. They either had a lantern, a pyx, or an axe. So we had to have 32 of each in the row, something like that. There were 70 dwarfs.
At Bradgate, Ted marched me upstairs to demonstrate the floral jug and bowl set used to wash all 6 Whitehead boys. And then, before my startled eyes, in a veritable coup de théâtre, he flung wide his wardrobe door.
I can see what's in there, can't you? There's a very amusing story. When I was having these rooms redecorated and the stairs, the painter came in and sort of was measuring up. You see, flung open these doors. It was staggered back, you see, seeing all this, you see. Gold lame, or gold lame as we call it, with a lot of yellow and orange net and a big net skirt with a lot of sequins and a whole 3-string row of pearls on it. And that was made specially for me. And I have a big hat on it as well. So you have a bit of tit and glitter, as it's known, for the finale in the pantomime. You have to put your best frocks on in the pantomime. This is my Anne Shelton number, this is known as. This is red lace with a red skirt and a red lace over top bit with a black fur trim, I suppose you would call that. This is Nobody Loves a Fairy When She's 40, pink and white nets. I would hasten to add that I have got suits here as well. No, the painter came, you see, came to measure up, and I flung open these cupboard doors and all these dresses were here, you see, so he backs away hurriedly, thinking he's in the home of a transvestite, you see. And I actually explained to him that this was my theatre costume, so keep them here out of the way, you see. And he said, oh yes, that sounds interesting. Having just got divorced and on his own, sort of thing, wanted something to occupy his time with, said, oh, I wouldn't mind coming to join the theatre. So I took him over to the Talisman, being a painter, and he started painting the scenery. Now, of course, he's got very ambitious, and of course he's on the stage and never wants to paint any more scenery ever again. And so much so he's now playing the giant in the pantomime this Christmas, because we're doing Jack and the Beanstalk.
Mary Ellen at the church turned up, her ma turned up, and her pa turned up, her sister Gert, and her rich Uncle Bert, and the parson in his long white shirt turned up, but no bridegroom with the ring turned up, but a telegram boy with his nose turned up, brought a telegram that said he didn't want to wed, and they'd find him in the river with his toes turned up.
If Ted had put as much effort into his work as he has into the theatre, he says, he'd have ended up head of ICI. As it was, he capitalised on his love of numbers and became head wages clerk at Newdigate Pit, where for years he handed out Friday pay packets to his father Jack and a clutch of Whitehead uncles and cousins. Newdigate Pit has gone now, along with the Griff, Clara, Binley, Arley and other Coventry collieries. Today you'd never guess a working pit had ever been there at all.
The coal seam goes straight along here. I mean, there's another colliery was, Griff Clara, where my grandfather, my father's father, actually lost his leg sinking the shaft, and he actually walked about on a peg leg, my grandfather did. One of those, with a single spigot up, hasn't it? That
Like
sort
Long
of peg
John
leg.
Silver.
That sort, yes. And the legend is he used to sow his potatoes. He had a terrier dog, and he used to walk along making the old drop potato, and the terrier dog used to come and put the soil across it. And there was also another man in the same street who'd lost his other leg, and they bought a pair of shoes between them. Because you used to collect cash in those days, you see, from the colliery offices on a Friday afternoon. Well, you had to come early Friday morning to dish out the night shift when they came up. Then you had to go come Friday, lunchtime onwards for the afternoon, and then people coming up off the day shift. My father used to give his pay packet to my mother, not unopened, because he used to open it and check it, because they had to do that in case they didn't think wrong. And he was allowed to keep the change, but my mother got the notes, because my father would spend his last penny if he got it in his pocket, as my mother said, you've got a hole in your pocket again, have you, Jack, sort of thing.
Okay, so we'll have a bit of quiet, please. We'll just pick it up from, we'll just rehearse this, Ted, pick it up from after Dulcie's...
Well, what
when
do
she
you
finished
say?
her
Right,
voice.
okay,
Yeah, okay.
right. Okay.
Yep.
It's never too late for have a fling, but anything is just as nice as spring, and it's never too late to fall in love. It's never too late to wink an eye. I'll do it until the day I die, and it's never too late to fall in love. They say I'm too old for you, then I shall answer why, sir. One never drinks the wine that's new. The old wine tastes much nicer. Its gentleman never feels too weak to pat a pink arm or pinch a cheek, and it's never too late to fall in love. All right, was that okay?
Ted is currently busy on a production of The Boyfriend for the Talisman Company. He tackles the numbers with gusto. But has he ever heeded the implication of the hit song he's singing? A romantic if ever there was one, why has Ted not tied the nuptial knot?
I always knew I wanted to be independent. And I think fairly early on in life I decided I wouldn't get married. I wouldn't commit myself to a long-term relationship. I would value my independence really above everything, I think.
So in spite of the happiness in your home, in spite of your parents' love for one another, you saw marriage as a tie.
Yes, as a responsibility for other people. Being selfish, I think, if I'm honest with myself, I felt living my life is difficult enough. That I made my mind up fairly early on in life, I think. Yeah.
Do you regret it?
Not for one moment, no. I've had some nice relationships with ladies from time to time, but that's been enough for me. Again, you never know. You could have been suddenly struck by Cupid's dart, couldn't you? I mean, it happens, doesn't it? So,
did your bachelor status upset the household? I mean, you know.
No, I just think it's upset my aunties and uncles. Why isn't your Ted getting married? Especially when the ones below me were getting married. It's going to be your turn next, isn't it? I said, not yet it isn't, no.
So Ted stayed on at Bradgate with Jack and Florence. A quiet life, with parents already feeling the weight of their years. Jack never understood his son's passion for the stage, but both he and Florence were proud of Ted. Thinking of his parents now, how does he remember them?
Oh, I think them just sitting here. My mother sort of used to knit quite a bit, and my father used to read a lot, so I think it would be them both sitting there, father in his armchair, my mother in her chair there. I mean, there'd never been one for going out very much anyway, but my abiding memory is them sitting reading quite quietly and sort of watching me eat a Chinese meal. I mean, they wouldn't eat a Chinese meal if I'd paid them. I used to bring takeaway Chinese, and they used to stand round and watch me as though I was, what on earth is in that? I mean, that was just a complete mystery to my mother, that I could actually get a meal, a Chinese-type meal, in Bedworth. I remember trying to get them to eat spaghetti. That took forever. Eventually, they decided they quite liked it. The tin spaghetti and tomato sauce. Oh, I couldn't get them to eat the real stuff. I made spaghetti bolognese once, and they just ate the sauce and left on spaghetti. And as much as I explained, it's only the same thing you've had out of a tin. It's just slightly bigger. But no, Italian, you see. I remember I did a beef and orange casserole once. I used to do Sunday lunches a bit. I used to do the main meat and I did beef and orange casserole. And Father's commented, it's like having your dinner and you put it on the same plate. And my mother's favourite phrase of all, of course, it's very nice, but you wouldn't want a lot of it.
I was puzzled that Ted had never become a professional actor and made a career for himself away from Bedworth.
But I wouldn't have done it as a full-time profession. I was asked, I did have a couple of chances to go professional, but I've always been like not moving home and been a bit of a stick in the mud, you see. And I was always lucky enough to have a job I enjoyed. So it was no hassle to me to say no to the professional offer because I was always enjoying the job and I always knew I could act at night. I wish there was a chance to, if somebody asked me to join the company now, I'd go like a shot. There's nothing to stop me now, you see, but I was very secure at home and it was a loving, comforting environment to be, which I wouldn't want to leave, and I wasn't brave enough to leave.
Jack, the Old Pit deputy, died in April 1979. Florence, who had been battling with arthritis for 30 years, composed herself to follow him and died determinedly in hospital 10 months later. How does he cope now, alone, in a house full of memories?
I sometimes hear my parents talk to me. They call my name, and I think, oh, that was my father, or was that my mother? When you sort of, oh, that's strange, isn't it?
Do you answer?
No, I don't, actually, because by the time I've realised, I think, oh, no, I didn't really hear that. The battery's gone or something.
Neither left a will, but by agreement with his brothers, Ted keeps a life interest in Bradgate.
I can't see me ever leaving this house unless it gets to a state where I can't look after myself. Leaving here, whatever reason, unless it's in the box feet first, which I shan't know much about, will I? Leaving here will be like having the bottom half of my leg cut off, I would think, bottom half of my body cut off. The thought of leaving it now, when I say it fills me with horror, that's too strong. It fills me with a great sadness. I wouldn't leave this place voluntarily, I don't think, because it's got too many memories, hasn't it?
Following the father's footsteps is a motto for each boy, and following your father's footsteps is a thing I much enjoy. My mother caught me out one evening up the West End on the spree. She said, "Where are you going?" And I answered, "Don't ask me."